What's up, everybody? Welcome to the live video revolution. We're here in Venice, California at BAMF Media. Awesome space here. We got a great panel for us, and we're going to dive right into it. Let's start with introducing our panel here. Carly, do you mind introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Carly Gauthier, and I'm the Director of Marketing at Live Nation. I help oversee different types of initiatives and promotions for our special events across the country.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm David Marica. I'm the founder and CEO of Socialive, which is a live video platform based in El Segundo, California. And super excited to be seeing you guys today. And well, again, thank BAMF for hosting this great event. So thanks for having us.
Which mic should I use? I don't really need a mic, but I will have one for the sake of those on the viewing live. My name is Lauren Bruschi, and I am the founder and CEO of Soul Expressed. It's a transformative company that supports people who dream of being entrepreneurs or current entrepreneurs or service entrepreneurs to scale their business leveraging technology from the inside of who you are out. And live video is a big part of that. So I'm excited to be here today. Former to founding this company, I was at Facebook for 7 years, and I led in our technology and advertising divisions. So leveraging a bit of that also and supporting people to leverage platforms.
Thanks, Lauren. My name is Houston. I'm the founder and CEO of BAMF Media. We are a marketing agency specializing in growth hacking, kind of innovative forms of marketing for our clients, content creation, PR, branding, especially personal branding, which is going to be a huge part of the whole live revolution, helping people get their faces out there. But yeah, so we're here at BAMF, and we're really excited to do this. Let's jump in. Thanks.
Awesome. All right, so tonight we're going to be talking about live video, but before we jump into live video, let's talk about video a little bit more broadly. And the first question I want to ask you guys, I know all of you touch marketing at some point, work a lot with marketers. How much video do you watch, and where do you watch it? Carly, do you want to start with it?
Yeah, definitely. I'll kick off. So video in general, I think, has overcome an complete evolution over the last few years, being internet leading the charge. So video, as we know it before from being media driven through television, has gone to more of a pastime. Conversations around cables being canceled, Netflix and Hulu and those types of different developments are leading the charge. And when we get into where we want to put our promotions on, it's less of that mass media that we can focus on through those channels and more of how we can target those through the internet. So a lot of the types of media that I'm dealing with at work, but also personally, is through channels like YouTube, channels like Facebook and Vimeo, or any of those types of marketing efforts.
Yeah, and so from my perspective, from a video consumption side of things, during the day, I'm spending most of my time on LinkedIn in terms of consuming video, just from a professional network perspective. And frankly, a lot of our enterprise customers are delivering video content there. On a personal level, I have a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old, so we're watching a lot of streaming media, particularly Master Chef Junior right now is very popular. A lot of love for Gordon Ramsay in the house right now.
The nice version.
I like
the real version. I know.
I like to think of video and how it transforms business. And so if you look at the sectors that it's actually disrupting, I think that's what's been really exciting. You mentioned a bit, Carly, right? About how you're looking at new niches to get promotional content out there. And I think about the revolution of education and how now education platforms like Kajabi and different educational platforms where we have to learn to be video creators now as communicators. And so I've been consuming so much to educate myself and stay relevant in what's happening in the industry through video versus reading some 80-page ebook that I have no desire to nail through to get what I want. So I think that video is really transforming our whole education industry, and I'm excited about what that means for people and access to education.
Awesome. So on that note, BAMF is actually really well known for our written content. So we've released, 80-page ebooks. We released a 500-page ebook. Okay, we call it the BAMF Bible, and it got insane amount of engagement. It went really viral. But as far as that was a year ago, right? So now, how do I translate my text-based content into video content is a huge priority for me right now. We have a massive archive of written content that I now want to go through, and I just want to narrate it, turn it into different bite-sized pieces of video content and longer form video education. So the ebooks and the blog posts and the articles that we've spent the last 2 years developing aren't going to go to waste. They're going to be then repurposed and given this whole second, new life of their own. And when it comes to actually making video content at scale and even kind of reverse engineering a new content creation paradigm was starting with live, and then rather than starting with a blog post and then converting that to video, I'm going to do the opposite, where I'm going to start with live video. I'm going to convert that into a blog post. So as far as like our whole process of creating video content, it's going to be flipped on its head. I think once we finish converting all of this other content and producing a lot of new video content at the same time. And definitely like the way I consume video is probably not the way that every person consumes video. I don't watch TV. I don't pay for cable. I haven't in like 10 years. Probably fall into that cord cutter category. But YouTube and HBO Go, so Game of Thrones and Netflix, and then YouTube mostly just for educational content. And when I want to learn something, I'll just kind of search it on YouTube and I'll watch, how to go live or how to, make SEO optimized blog content or whatever I'm trying to learn in the moment.
Very cool, very cool. Right now, we're actually currently simulcasting this live broadcast across YouTube, across Facebook, across Twitter, across LinkedIn. So we're on all these channels. We're trying to reach people wherever they're consuming. So I think my next question for you guys all mentioned digital video, streaming video, and I want to throw this to Lauren specifically, starting with your Facebook experience. But what's the right length of content? What's the right kind of content for digital formats? Right now, we're simulcasting the same broadcast across all channels. Do we need to make different video for different channels? What are your thoughts on that based on your experience at Facebook and looking at how the competition attacks video as well?
Sure. It all starts with your intention. So what is your intention when you create the video? If your intention is to send a promotional message, no one's really caring after 5 seconds. Like, you literally we used to call it the 3-second audition on video content. So for promotional videos, like, the audiences really know they want to connect with authentic videos, authentic people. If it's going to be long form content, it has to be entertaining. And so it's not so much the length as much as it is like your purpose and your intention behind it. And then once you get the viewer and you've built a relationship with them, they'll start tuning into your content. So it's more about really like, if you're trying to just sell them something, the consumers change. They don't want to just watch your video to buy. The other piece I'll say is building authority in your areas of expertise to develop video content so people know what to tune into you for. There is a certain, especially with live video, there is a certain expectation that they'll either get entertained or they'll know to tune in because you're going to do a panel on live video as you promote. So there's a way to tease out and sort of fluff the consumer, to use an interesting term. But why not? I don't work for a big company anymore. I can say those things now. It's great. So I think just in general, it all starts with actually your intention as a marketer, and it comes from the inside out. People feel that.
Cool. Carly, do you have any thoughts on that? Because, I know Dave, we work together, live video, we're simulcasting a lot of stuff. At Live Nation, the video content that you guys create, do you create for a specific channel? Do you create long form and short form? How do you determine what your roadmap looks like?
Definitely by channel, but we do have a lot of restrictions with who we're dealing with. So if we're dealing with a specific artist, they have an ad met and we have to follow that ad met. That's what it is, and that's the content that we get to promote with. So we have to use it to our best of ability to figure out what channel to promote it on and really get the news out there as much as we can. But when it comes to content that we can produce ourselves, then we're looking at the channel and the best practices they recommend. So working with different industry leaders within those platforms and figuring out what people respond most to. I think my favorite thing, and I drive my team crazy with it, is A/B testing. So figuring out, let's do literally something that's 15 seconds versus 30, and then taking that one winner and then cutting it down even to more of a minute test in between those. And it's so interesting to see how audiences actually respond different for how long they watch, when they convert, and when they're engaging with the content based on the channel.
Cool. And then Dave, like, so outside of simulcasting these different channels, I know we've actually seen some of our customers do similar stuff to what Carly's talking about. Do you want to elaborate on how people can take long form content and kind of spread it across different channels and really make more out of that than just one live broadcast?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, one thing we're seeing is that when people approach live, so specifically live, I think they're tending to still think about live video as an island as opposed to like an integrated part of your video content experience. And so kind of, I like how you're describing, I'm going to start with live and then I'm going to kind of repurpose and kind of create content around that. It's exactly right? Like live or even long form content up front, be thinking about how you're going to cut that into smaller pieces and repurpose it, amortize it, use it for paid acquisition, whatever it might be. The other thing is thinking about how your content creators and your partners can be part of the distribution, right? So in the case of influencers or celebrity partners or whoever it might be, the idea, it's actually become pretty easy now to distribute, especially live content, to simulcast that live content across multiple channels at the same time. And the benefit of that is you're getting that organic pickup right away, as opposed to a share is essentially a post, right, where you need to put paid against it for it to be seen in the algorithm of almost every channel, certainly Facebook, but even LinkedIn at this point. So the idea that you can simulcast across some of these partner pages, great way to cross-pollinate, because you ultimately want to get that audience engaging with your page.
Definitely. Cool. So, I mean, I think you guys all have some great experience with video. You guys have all kind of hinted at what makes a video impactful, but I think that's really where a lot of businesses struggle. They know video is very important. Carly mentioned A/B testing, a great way to kind of test the impact of video. But if you're a business and you're just really trying to ramp up video, you know you have to make a lot, but you kind of do have a budget. How do you go about making the most impactful video, and how do you set out a content calendar that you know is going to get the most bang for your buck? Anyone want to start with that?
I can start. Or you want to start?
Well,
You go first.
Okay, thanks. So I would say it, again, depends on what your intention is with the video. If you have no budget, which, you know, we're a growth hacking agency. The whole point of growth hacking is to find ways to grow your business without actually paying money. So that's kind of the mindset, at least, like the most scalable, efficient way to grow your business. Let's say you have no budget. Trying to get organic reach on Facebook is going to be pretty much impossible. So your Facebook page is not going to get organic reach anymore. So I wouldn't really waste your time. Even, you know, when I first started going live as a test, I went live on Facebook and would have, you know, we had a few thousand followers on our page and would only get a few people watching. And we're like, what's going on? So it is very hard if you're not promoting it organically. There's certain channels that just don't work. Contrary to what you were saying, I think LinkedIn organically, if you want to get more bang for your buck, LinkedIn's organic algorithm will boost your content in the feed to your target customers. If you're a B2B business, I would absolutely start with LinkedIn. If you're a B2C business, I would start with micro content on Instagram and also YouTube content, unboxing videos, tutorials if you're B2C. But B2B, I would definitely start with LinkedIn. So I think it kind of depends what your business is, how you would approach getting started with video content. And if you're a B2B business, then also that educational content is going to be really, really key. If you do have a bigger budget and you're B2C, then Facebook is going to be a massive part of your video strategy on the paid side. So coming up with different ad types for all the different parts of your funnel, your top of funnel video, just introducing yourself and your brand, getting people to know who you are, your middle of funnel, maybe going a little bit deeper into what you're offering, and then your bottom of funnel, getting people to really, you know, convert and buy what you're trying to sell, but not hitting them with that sale as the first ad, you know, trying to build that trust with your whole funnel and looking at your video content in that way.
Got it. So you're looking at your video content in the same way you look at your written content, and you're trying to drive people down a funnel. And so you're looking at, you know, how you want them to move along that and making a video based on that. So your impact is based on where they are in the funnel.
100%. It depends on how big your budget is, and that's going to affect how much you want to allocate to different parts of your funnel. Right now, the video that we're seeing convert the most is Instagram story ads. Those are by far the highest converting video ads out there right now. If you do have a much bigger budget, then you can do YouTube pre-roll. That works pretty well. but you really have to scale that to get a massive impact. And then just Facebook videos, as far as top of funnel, you can use them. You can run ads just to optimize for video views specifically. So it's kind of a controversial tactic because there's a lot of bots on Facebook that will scroll through and they'll count as a video view. So you just want to be mindful of how you're optimizing your ads. But Facebook video view campaigns is a very cheap way to build your top of funnel. And then you can actually use like a static image or other ad types in the middle and bottom of funnel to get them to click through.
Awesome. Lauren, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much on Facebook. It's like video has really been the forefront of their marketing. They've followed consumer trends and mobile consumption. Now video makes it so easy to be in the discovery mode. So if you're not able to pay the high cost of search or some of the DR tactics that we know work really well, and you can take static assets and move them. Like, so you can have the products, like using my product saves your business 20%. Then it's like eye-catching and people stop and they get the benefit and they'll probably click and go further. And you can retarget people who have been exposed to your video as well. So it works really well to move people through sequential marketing if you're interested. But I want to go back to the point that you had asked just about creating video content as a marketer. If you're concerned about budget and, some of the things that, I don't care what size you are, if you're responsible to a budget, it matters. And so I think it's actually a mindset inside the organizations that have to shift, because we used to take, 3 months to develop a 30-second TV spot. And that's after the year-long of brand concept. It's like building a car, like concept cars, and then you go to production, and sometimes they never even make it to the dealership. So we have to change the way we think as marketers inside of an organization and empower our people to mess up and to take risk. And that's why you see influencers and the young chefs and everyone else in the world becoming famous, because they don't care about messing up. They're taking massive imperfect action, which means I'm perfect. Isn't that fun? So point being is that we have to be okay with being agile. We have to be okay with being agile marketers, just putting it out there, seeing what resonates. A/B testing, it's a great way of testing things and training people to mess up. And that's a win. We win when we don't get results. We learn. And that's what we have to start from the very top layers, people who manage budgets, to empower people based on opportunity, not based in fear.
Do you want to jump in, Dave?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I couldn't agree more. And within these kind of organizations, I think the shift is happening where they're saying, hey, we need to actually shift our budgets, our timeshare, and our mindshare away from heavy production, celebrity influencers, right? And start bringing it back to that human element. It's interesting, the stuff that performs the best, and we're seeing this over and over again from a data perspective, even all the way through conversion, is actual kind of mobile optimized, authentic, not overly produced content. Brand appropriate, yes, so it shouldn't be really raw and not work, but that in between where it's even shot with a mobile phone but has that authenticity, even for bigger brands, it's actually converting higher. So if the results are there and it is brand appropriate, the organizations are going to start shifting that way. Interestingly, we're seeing that not only on the marketing side, we're seeing that on the employee engagement side as well, internally within the organization, how they're shifting from production, heavy, long timelines to, hey, we got to get this stuff going here.
Cool.
I think that's such an important point to really kind of double down on. You don't need a budget to make video content that's going to be valuable to your customers, your followers, or your company in general. You don't need any budget. It's free. Everyone has, high definition video cameras in their pocket. So pull it out, do a selfie video. We work with tons of clients with ranges of budgets from, I'm going to spend $1,000 a month on ads, or I'm going to spend $100,000 a month on ads. And routinely we have, so much effort and money poured into producing these amazing branded videos. And then, we'll ask our client, can you just get some testimonial videos from your customers and make sure they do it in a portrait mode, vertical format. And that's going to drive the majority of the conversions. And, even if you are just a personal brand, throwing in some of the higher produced content is great if you have that option. And it definitely builds more brand equity over time. But I would highly recommend just to don't feel that you can't get started with a video because you don't have the right tools. You don't have a big enough budget to promote that content. There's just so many ways to get started without spending any money. And I would recommend that.
And I'd have to echo with even working with your fans and the content producers that you have within your own walls or the people that work in your office. User-generated content is a huge way to try to produce a story behind the brand that actually has an authentic feeling of people using the product or coming to our venue and coming to our shows, taking place at some kind of a private event and being inspired from the content they produce, and then working together with them as a partnership. People get super stoked when we say we want to repost their photos that they use on our own channel and tag them. I mean, it's just such an awesome organic way to get free content as well as promote each other at the same time.
Yeah, I must say it's frustrating for our creative team that will spend weeks on these amazing videos, and then we ask the client to do the selfie video, and that's the ad that converts, and then we don't actually put any budget behind the one that we spent all this time and money producing. But at the end of the day, you need to put your money into what's working.
So, I mean, that leads right into the next question, which is basically we're in the selfie era, right? Where people can just pop open their phone, take a selfie, just like Houston said. But we still have a ton of brands and companies, 6-7-figure production budgets, doing the whole dog and pony show. What is the right mix of that content? When do you bust out the phone and just do a selfie style video? And when do you do a fully produced video? If you're a big, maybe Fortune 1000 brand or something like that, where you kind of want to catch up with the times, but at the same time, you have this status quo or this workflow you've been doing, and you're scared basically to take the money away from that big production budget. So what's the right balance, and how do they start transforming? Dave, do you want to start with that?
I mean, look, sure. I'll say it. First of all, I think every company is different, right? Certain consumer-facing brands where kind of the equity in the brand is such that, you know, they can't kind of degrade the brand value too much. It's a harder leap for them than organizations that are kind of in the earliest stages of their brand building. And I think where authenticity out of the gate is what really matters. That said, I mean, we're working with some really, you know, some brands who I would say at the top of the brand equity, like they are all about live entertainment, you know, kind of consumer facing, you know, working with also kind of top-notch artists and talent, and they're starting to kind of get more comfortable with the idea of not overproducing. And again, I think it's the results that matter. So I think, again, it comes down to this A/B testing, right? You're not going to go all in, you know, you're not going to go simply from only produced to all raw and organic. You know, you're going to start testing and having a balance and see what works. And I also think, again, different channels, different formats, different content types, you know, you need to have a spray. So you're still going to need some of that produced content. I think what's moving from 100% of it being that to moving that being like the upper tier of your kind of linear marketing approach. And then you have kind of these more social oriented pieces that start really percolating out and can be leveraged across digital.
I'll add to that in that I think those bigger budgets, we can start to think, not the bigger budgets, the bigger production quality. We can start to think about video innovation. And so how as a marketer are you going to leverage what you used to do to create really high production quality to create experiential video experiences? I just use experiential twice, but you guys got it, right? Yeah. So, and I think that that's where if I'm sitting with a massive budget and I know that what I'm doing is kind of the same old thing, consumers want to be entertained. They want to be wowed. They do kind of want the shiny object. That's what will have you stand out. So I would be working with, you know, more 3D, more 4K, more of the things that now are going to set me apart from what I've always done, and start to have a myriad of content both up and down the production quality scale.
Yeah, the one thing I would just kind of add is that what we are seeing is that, you know, what consumers really want, and this is definitely true on LinkedIn. I'm seeing a ton of this on LinkedIn, but I think it's true for kind of the, you know, more Facebook channel as well, which is they want like a view into the company. They want like that real fact, like, hey, what is it really like at Cisco, right? Cisco is there's not a very human element to Cisco, but when you start putting a human around a company like Cisco, all of a sudden, boom, now it is something more than, you know, servers and routers or whatever it might be, right? So that idea that you can start putting a human face to what might be a humanless brand potentially is, I think, a very powerful thing.
One thing I did with one of my clients before I left Facebook was we had the CEO become an influencer. And we did all this research to show that people like social CEOs. And now he's got an entire team built around his influencer program. And he was a relatively new CEO as well, trying to transform an old company that was outdated and in an industry where people aren't even buying their products and services. For them, retention is growth. And being able to set the stage of being like, even having employees want to work there.
Yeah.
So I love the point that you made. And the truth is, they want to know, like, IBM solving cancer in the brain and global warming. Like, who's talking about that outside of cloud technology, right? And I think that's where there is that element that there's a heart inside of every company to be expressed, or a soul expressed.
Nice.
Thanks, Lauren. I will say, just on that point, something that we work on at BAMF every single day that we're extremely passionate about, which is building personal brands for founders and CEOs and executives. And something that I really believe in is that people don't just buy from brands. Yes, they like the logo of, the Nike swoosh, and they like, the Tesla logo, but they're not buying a Tesla because it's a cool logo. They're buying it because they love the cult of Elon Musk, right? People buy the iPhone and not the Google Pixel, even if the Google Pixel might be a better phone in a lot of ways, because they want to be part of that tribe. They want to be closer to Steve Jobs. They don't really feel the same way about, Sergey and Larry at Google, or, sorry, but Bill Gates. But like, if Microsoft doesn't even have a phone, it just doesn't have the same personal brand. People buy from people. They don't buy from logos and brands. And with the whole rise of influencers, you're seeing that more and more and more. And my goal is to really just empower businesses to add that face to their brand and to help them, get followers for that CEO, so that he can then sell, like Cisco, for example. I don't know who the CEO of Cisco is, but if he was putting out content on LinkedIn, nurturing this audience with his potential customers, putting out video content, photo content, written content, and building that trust, it would be a complete shift in how that company was perceived, as opposed to just being a nameless, faceless company.
I love how you use the word tribe too, which is really generally what we're trying to do as a brand. Is we're growing people to want to follow us and be a part of our group. And when you create organic content that's not huge production value, you're actually dealing with content that makes people think of, more raw, more personal, not something that's fake. And so by giving even like a cheaper budget to a video, you may actually be, in the long run, communicating a more realistic view that actually converts people easier, because they feel like they now are a part of the scene and really seeing what's happening.
Independent of the talent that you put on as for performances, how as a brand do you kind of focus on leveraging that talent partnership while also differentiating and creating a connection to the brand itself, Live Nation, as an entertainment and event brand?
Live the legend. So allowing people to come into our venue for my brand, particularly, it's private events. So telling a CEO, I think I got the funniest email recently. Was a CEO wanted to zip line from like our mezz to the music hall stage and have like cryo cannons going off. And it's like, yeah, we can do that, because you're living the legend. And that's the same exact stage that thousands of other wonderful artists have played on. So we're permitting our brand played off of these stories that have actually happened within the venue. And then providing other elements of how you can come early, you can get some food and beverage, you can have a drink, and what the stories are entailing to make you want to follow up to look at our concert calendar or want to host an event there.
That's a great question, Dave. Let me use my boss asking the questions here tonight, but
We're not allowed to?
no, I'm just kidding. So you guys have all talked a little bit about influencers. Now here's my question. I want to start with Carly, but everybody I know is going to weigh in on this. How do you include influencers in your video strategy?
I think one of the ways Live Nation definitely works on it is working with our artists. So we do a lot of artist takeovers, and we do have the benefit of working directly with them. They want to sell tickets, so we have a closer connection where it allows us to have that leverage at a cost to nothing, because they want to do their job and sell the tickets. But when it comes to the brand side, where we're trying to get people just in general to take a look at our venue or to throw a private event, that's where we need to look at what type of value can we give. Perhaps not to a larger influencer, but more micro influencers, and taking a look at by market who is effective, by region who are those leaders and those thought provokers, whether it's somebody that Thrillist is talking about for the restaurants, or somebody that Cvent and BizBash are talking about for the private event side, and trying to team up with them to invite them to our hosted events and trying to make them feel like a VIP for the night, and working with that type of trade in order to get coverage for a later date. and then developing that relationship so perhaps they can come back the next time. And that's how you grow your micro influencer campaign, and you begin to do some more value for the brand itself outside of the artist.
So how would you define a micro influencer versus just an influencer?
I mean, there's 1,000 different types of thresholds that the internet will tell you, but I like to say around 5,000 to 50,000 would be micro, and then 50 and above, we get to people that might be a little bit more leveraging for some type of a revenue value that they want in return. So when it comes to work, it'd be a micro influencer at 5K, and then we'll threshold that off as they get larger and then try to talk about different deals. But I really actually like micro influencers better when it comes to what the return we could possibly get with them.
Gotcha. And so you're talking about followers, obviously, but how does engagement weigh in? And do you factor in like the ratio of engagement they get compared to the followers, or do you just strictly looking at follower count?
No, I think it's engagement as well. So you can go after one larger influencer, or you can go and you can spend all your time in there, all your budget, and trying to figure out exactly how to make that person happy. They do a story, a post, and maybe like a follow-up at the end. Or you can go to 20 micro influencers and get just as many impressions, and then the engagement and the comments. Comments are a huge thing also for us to be looking into, trying to figure out what the influencer could be posting to tag us, or try to even figure out a sweepstakes we can have with them. So ultimately it's the engagement through comments and likes, but I would feel like instead of going to one larger influencer to just leverage that with multiple micros, you get a larger return.
Awesome. I love it.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is a trend, but what I'm starting to see with we work mostly with enterprise organizations, large brands, right? And influencers are definitely a part of the strategy. The two things that I'd say I'm seeing more and more, and maybe this is kind of like a little bit of the backlash against influencers. They're not running away from them, but one, doing more with less influencers. So as opposed to having dozens and dozens, like focusing in on like a 5 or 10 that they can really have impact with, one. Second thing is having a little bit more control over the content that actually comes out. So not essentially kind of letting these influencers take over and entirely drive the content strategy, but more contributing content that can be repurposed and leveraged by the organization in some way. Again, I would say that's early days, but my sense is that's where things are heading. And I've seen this with certainly a number of companies on the B2B side, but also the B2C side. I think I see a shift happening. I'd be curious what the rest of the audience, the rest of the panel thinks as well on that front.
Yeah, I think it's really important to go back to understand like what value does this influencer provide to my audience?
Right.
Is it a value add, or can they smell through my desire to get more reach, to get more comments, to get more outcomes for me, versus really using the influencer because like at the heart of my brand, it's in line with the influencer as well. And I think that's looking at the long term, because like, did you guys see those Burst toothbrushes? Like the ones that have that corn and like the black, like I bought one of those and it's an awesome toothbrush. And I'm really grateful for the strategy that they used, which was like, I just want a ton of people to buy this toothbrush. And so that in that case, like it was a new product on the market and they did a great job using influencers to demo their product. But I think if you think about like the one hit wonders, like when you use the influencers to just kind of like splash your brand, like it drives me crazy. Like I can't even think of it at the moment. My ad as a product in the life cycle of my business and this relationship with my potential customer or customers or prospects, and then leveraging the influencer and like it all goes back to the days of the progressive woman flow. Like she really built a persona, or the Geico Gecko. Like he built a persona, and we just can go back to marketing 101 and now apply to the sea of influencers. Like we got this, guys. We're marketers.
We do got this, for sure. I would say, don't waste your money on influencers. Please do not do it. I swear to God. If you're a startup, don't waste your money on influencers. What you need to do is put your money into yourself. Become the influencer. Anyone can become an influencer. It's not that hard. All you got to do is go live and put out content on a regular basis. I can't reinforce this enough, but if you're putting money into someone else, you're paying them to build their brand, essentially. If there's that kind of an exchange where you're paying them. I would say I'm being a little bit hyperbolic here. Maybe there's a few occasions where influencers work, but if you're a startup founder, please put that effort and energy into building your personal brand and trying to become that influencer that can then sell your product. That's going to be a much better longer term investment than, having that one hit wonder. You get a huge spike in traffic and then what happens? Crickets. There's nothing after that. We have seen it so many times. Companies will spend $50,000 to have some influencer that I've never heard of, but I'm sure a lot of people follow, and they do a plug on their story or their Instagram, and then what happens? I mean, no one is going to engage with that content after a 24-hour period. Like, who likes content on Instagram that's like more than 3 days old? Like, that's creepy. Your content dies, right? Like, it has no life unless you're getting that content and you're going to have the rights to then like keep reusing it as an ad. Like, that would be influencer 101.
Yeah.
If you are going to pay for that influencer content, make sure that you own all the rights to that content to use it how you want. A lot of influencers will give you like a 30-day window or 60, 90 days, something like that, to then reuse it. But if you don't get that and you're just like, here's $5,000, like, I hope that, you give me a shout out, like, that's not going to work out in your favor ever. And believe me, people do that. It's crazy. The micro influencers are probably the better strategy. They have higher engagement as far as follower to engagement ratios. If you're a B2C e-commerce company, it depends on the price of your product, but if you can afford to give your product away to YouTube influencers, I would go that route, because those unboxing videos are going to have SEO value, and it's people that search your product and follow those people. That video content with those kind of influencers is going to last a lot longer than, say, someone who's like, oh, I got the product and I'm doing a story on Instagram that disappears, right? So think about like, what's the lifetime value of my influencer strategy? Not just, I'm going to get a massive influx of traffic for 5 minutes and then it's going to disappear. 100%. I would actually focus more on like PR as opposed to just straight influencer. Like, what kind of interviews and blog articles and guest posting can I do to leverage other people's traffic to bring them to me, as opposed to just like, the standard Instagram.
Cool. Yeah, and I think that leads to the next thing. Obviously, Houston went right after it, but just in my past experience at agency life was like, people always complained, I'm not getting any ROI on my influencers. I'm not getting a return. So my question to you guys is, how do you get an ROI on influencers? Is there an ROI to be had, or is it really just all upper funnel and you shouldn't be thinking about revenue? But the most common complaint is, what's the return on investment for an influencer? And so how do you get a good return?
Thank you for asking that. So ROI on influencer is, as you mentioned, it's really bad unless you have the right strategy. All I have to say, what Carly mentioned around viral sweepstakes, or just sweepstakes in general, that's a really good idea, because you're going to be able to drive that traffic, hopefully capture some emails, incentivize the people that you're capturing to then share it with their networks. So if you're able to get PR or influencers to drive into a sweepstakes, where then that's going to create more organic sharing from the followers of those people, that's like a really good way to get more ROI out of it, especially if you're capturing emails. I would say make sure you're capturing emails, right? Like, an influencer that's going to send straight to a product purchase page, if you're not capturing an email, then you're going to have no way to follow up with that person that the influencer sent you. Make sure you have the Facebook pixel so you can retarget that person if they don't purchase. Those kind of things are going to help with your ROI to like nurture the people you capture over time.
I was just going to add also one thing we haven't mentioned, and Houston and I were talking about this last night, is the power of communities, and how inside of communities there are now influencers that, like, they may not have a lot of followers, but they're a big deal inside of that group or that community. And so being able to look beyond like feed or pre-roll or the different ways that typically as marketers we think, it's again like trying to be agile and looking at how people are actually coming together. And people are now coming together in community online. And so I think there's a new sector of influencers that are going to look different than the way that we see it as today. That doesn't really answer the ROI question, but felt relevant.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, it starts with having the right influencers. Like, one thing I'm seeing in the pharma space is, looking at how you can bring actual authentic patients that are believers in your product and have done well with your product. I mean, so if you can bring customers as your influencers, they're the most authentic and most powerful influencers. Similarly, on the employee side, we're seeing companies now starting to make employees internal advocates and ambassadors and influencers within the organization. They help the best with recruiting on LinkedIn is the actual employees themselves who believe in the company, are face of the company. So first of all, having those right folks. Second thing is, and this is particularly for live, of course, but the simulcasting thing does work. I mean, we're seeing this over and over again, that the idea of kind of not just going live on your brand page, but distributing that content live, again, not as a share, but live into kind of those profile pages. It does have a big impact because you're ultimately kind of reaching that audience in just a more authentic way, a more organic way. So if that's an option for companies, I definitely recommend it.
And you control the content.
And you control it a bit more, yeah.
And I like what you said about just like empowering your employees, like creating an actual brand advocacy program and incentivizing people to post to their own channels. Even though they're small, they can be mighty, and they grow the brand as a whole, especially if they're pointing up to a CEO or somebody that they're trying to make the face of the brand. Yep. And for ROI in general, I would consider influencer marketing more top of funnel. So the return and the KPIs I'm looking at are the engagement, but I'm not trying to necessarily drive too much from it. It's more of if there is extra, if we have a trade, if we have a relationship, that's when we explore those options. Otherwise, it's definitely creating some type of a promo code for claiming or a sweepstakes as well. But it's purely awareness when I look at it from my point of view.
Awesome. Well, Dave mentioned simulcasting, it mentioned live video. This is the live video revolution. So I think we need to start digging into live video. I think everybody here has mentioned that really every brand should be doing video. Companies, executives, influencers, video is great for them. But who should be doing live video? Harley, you want to start with that?
So employees are who we would be empowering to do our live video, which definitely comes into a lot of training. And so some people have it, some people don't, as well as who wants to actually be on the camera. So creating those storylines and looking at your content calendar. For us, we're working with venues, so we have to look at the flow of events that we have and the opportunities where there even is a chance to go live and the stories we want. If there's not a story, then it's really cool to show that behind the scenes look of, what does an average office day look like? Or what does it look like as we're getting ready for a set? Or can our chefs give a tip of the day or a recipe of the day? So figuring out exactly who that face could be at the venue and then working with them to try to create that in a story way that your audience wants to relate to.
Cool. Anybody else want to jump in? Who should be doing live video?
I work with a lot of people who are like scared to death to be themselves. They've actually hid behind big brand names, big titles, like their resumes, and they're trying to find themselves again. And a lot of the work that I do is having people get on video to share like what their expertise is, what they're passionate about, to have something where actually people can start to turn to you for, people can start to connect to you around. And so like you can look at Bazumo, and if you're looking to target people that like gardening, like go look at type in gardening. Bazumo is a sort of a place you can see what content is hot and what questions people are asking about a certain content piece. And so taking the edge off a little bit of like, okay, well, it's not so much about me. It's about what people are getting value in by watching my live content. And so I think like live, it's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh my God, I'm blank. I don't know what to do. Like the camera's on and I am so scared right now. It's like public speaking. It freaks people out. I think the same is true for brands. Like there's a lot of risk in it. It's live content. And so, just being able to be clear of like, what is the customer or the viewer going to get from this, and like grounding yourself in that versus all the fear around what potentially your hair looks like. Like it's messy and you probably got more viewers because your hair looks like shit. Like people relate to that, So, that's what I have to say.
So who should be going live? I mean, we should be going live. I should be going live a lot more often. So that's a really good question. I think your employees going live is a really awesome idea. We've definitely used content to build up our hiring and our company culture on LinkedIn specifically. We haven't done a ton of video, but early on we did. If you have a new hire, especially, it's like a fun thing to do. Like everybody meet the newest member of our team, introduce yourself. And like, that's a great opportunity to kind of easily break the ice and introduce your team members and then, get your company culture out there. But I think, who should be going live? That's like,
No, I was laughing. On the first day of someone's job, you tell them, all right, you're going live. Welcome to the job.
We like to torture our employees. Seriously. Yeah, definitely. It's a fun thing to do and just kind of put people on the spot, but maybe not for everybody. Yeah. We haven't done it to everyone.
Audience.
Yeah. Yeah, who should be going live? I mean, everyone, right?
Well, and also the other thing is that video, I'll talk in this because I know there's people watching. Live videos prioritized in the feeds. So like if you want bigger metrics, like go live because that's what's being prioritized in the feeds. So there you have it.
I think one of the challenges, it's going to take a little bit more time for, folks to orient around this. There's still this binary mindset of like, there's live video and there's video. Like that I think is going to change over time where live is a part of the continuum of your video experience. And there's going to be certain pieces of content where you don't need to do that live video storytelling. And there's going to be others where it makes sense. I personally think live content should be the content where the storytelling has a participatory nature to it. It really is about a two-way experience. It's about having the audience be engaged in some way. If you're using it purely as a distribution only, like I just don't think that's a great use of live personally. Like I think at the end of the day, you got to think about how your audience is going to be participating in some way. And even as our team, like we have to continue to push our customers to think that way, not just, hey, the algorithm's awesome, great reach, great engagement. Well, the engagement's got to be authentic by you bringing the audience in and making it a two-way experience. Just like we're telling influencers to give, not take on LinkedIn, companies need to give, not just take, right? And that's a two-way experience. That said, the whole idea of live is that it's that opportunity to be authentic and participatory. Then that content lives on. How are you going to repurpose that content? And I don't mean necessarily the 15-minute long form piece. How are you thinking about cutting the segments out, repurposing it on social, repurposing on digital, bringing it into email newsletters, kind of using other channels to reconnect that content? Because that content is a 15-minute piece of content with lots of gems in it, right? It's not just a live video and it's dead, right? That I think is the world we still live in today. But we, when we have to, Socialive, have to continue to push our customers to think that way, as I'm sure some other people in the video space. So,
awesome. So,
can I just also reemphasize? I think we agree so much on this point. Looking at live as a way to seed your entire content strategy, to basically take it, repurpose it, distribute it across every channel. It's the most efficient way to create content at scale with a little effort. Exactly. Just pressing the red button. Going live for 20 minutes, now you have a 20-minute piece of video that you can then splice together as opposed to having a huge production.
And here's the benefit. The metrics have proven to be over and over again the best. So, and not just because of the algorithm, it actually is engaging by nature. So, it's like there's really no downside once you get to a level of comfortability. And you can have control as a brand.
So when you look at just like the content trends over the last few years, at this point on the internet, there's about 1 billion blogs, written blog content, if you include WordPress and Tumblr, which is a staggering amount of written content. So it's extremely hard to compete. If you look at video content, there's 2 million channels that have, relevant like subscribers on YouTube. So you have 1 billion blogs, you have 2 million YouTube channels, and then podcasts is also kind of the next big thing, or it's already a huge thing. If you think about it, there's 700,000 podcasts in the US. There's over 1 million maybe it's, is it 700 million? No, there's 700,000 podcasts. So it's still like really, really green frontier, right? So when you're going live on video, you're not just creating live video content. This is all audio. That's why we have all these microphones. It's all being, high quality audio that you can then take and put on Spotify and a million other podcast channels. And you can use something like Anchor, or there's a couple of other apps that it's like similar to like, you probably have some serious thoughts about this because, multi-streaming on video, now there's like, how do you do that same thing with audio? How do you put your podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Pandora, all the other audio platforms as well? So I'm curious what your thoughts are there. For me, I want to make a podcast. I also want to do more video content. So it makes the most sense for me to start live, create that authentic audio content and video content at the same time, and then figure out ways of spicing that up and distributing it to what I see as the highest growth opportunity channels for content, which are podcasts and YouTube compared to just the written content.
Yeah, Nick, Brian, let's add that to the product roadmap. Distribute across all the audio channels at the same time. I like it.
Is that on the product roadmap?
There's technology that enables you to do that. That's the cool thing. I think you mentioned this is like just being intentional about every place you want to be where your customers are, your prospects, because they're everywhere now. And we haven't really said that, but I think there's also power in like live video during a show or during a TV. We don't really watch live TV, but sports we do, like award shows we do. Like there is still the appointment viewing that exists. So just thinking about like what's the multi-screen experience or multi-listener experience, and I think that's important too, tying the customer together across all platforms.
Yeah, that actually leads to the next question is, so when you're doing live video, should you just go live when you feel like going live? Should you have a consistent show? Like, how should you approach that? And then back to a similar question, you guys went live on Instagram for about a minute before we started. We're going live here for probably 30 plus minutes on LinkedIn. So what's also the right length? Like how frequently should you go live? Do you need to be consistent? How does all this live video stuff work?
I can add just a little. I think the interesting thing is, again, it's like learn what your audience likes. Try different things. Like last night I sat and did a fireside chat with someone in my backyard, and we did like a vulnerability conversation about, what people are most vulnerable about, and asked vulnerable questions on the spot. And the feedback I got, the messages I got, like I'm getting messages from people. I'm like, you cared about that, which is great, because when we've talked about this, like live video informs for us to be able to make other decisions. So try it out for a week, try different times, try different formats, see what works, see what, like there may be really valuable customers to you and also advocates for you that you didn't know about. And that's the beauty of live video, is it allows us to get feedback in real time.
Anybody else want to jump in on that?
I would just say consistency is key. If you want to build any sort of engaged audience, whatever type of content you're putting out, that audience is going to follow you because they're going to learn to expect something from you. And if you're all over the place, you're doing, 1 minute videos and then 1 hour videos and, having high production videos, and then, you're just all over the place with your strategy and you're not intentional about it, I don't think you're going to be able to build a really core following that is going to be highly engaged and excited for your next video. So I think consistency is key with any sort of content you're putting out, even if it's just written content or you're putting out images on Instagram. If you put out one a month or one every 3 months, you're not going to build a following, right? And it's not just because that's what your audience wants. It's because also the algorithms, that's what they want to see, right? I hate to bring it back to the algorithms again, but honestly, they're going to reward that consistent usage of their platform and coming back. And so they're going to boost you more in the feed. Whereas, and that was one of my problems when I went live on Facebook maybe 2 years ago. We tried going live when it first came out, right? Like we're like, no, we have not gone live on Facebook in a while because we did it a couple of times here and there. We were not consistent about it. We'd get 20 views and we're like, why isn't this working, right? Because the algorithm they basically saw it as like this new thing. It wasn't proven yet, right? But the more consistent you are, the more you're proving your channel to both the platform that you're on and your audience.
I have an idea. Yeah. How many people want to go live, but you're kind of scared? Yeah, like you can raise your hand like, I want to go live and I'm kind of scared to go live. So I don't know what to say. And I'm kind of not sure if people care. And what if no one watches? Like we're all in our heads about it, right? So like if we know consistency matters, what if we went live every single day, once a day for the next year?
I thought you could say let's all go live right now.
Or that. Like we could start right now. And like I think, like who's up for that? Like once a day for the next year.
The live video challenge.
A live video challenge. Like, I'm giving you the challenge. I guarantee your life will be different. Like, your whole life will be different if you just get out of your head and go live. And if you're up for that challenge and you're up for transformation and having your life and your business and your whole space be different, like, go live once a day and start with something simple. Like, today I had an apple for lunch. It was tasty and I chipped my tooth. You're like, I don't know, but like, pick things that seem like not so risky and see what happens. And I will tell you, I've been going live as an entrepreneur for the last 2 months and I'm up to this challenge. And I've missed a few days here and there, but I'm still up to doing it. And the amount of people who have reached out to me to be like, you've changed my life. This is why I do the work that I do, because people want to meet people. People want to connect, and technology has us so disconnected now. Yeah. It's unreal. That is the beauty of live video. So I don't know all the stats, but I'm up for changing people's lives. And I think it starts with us. It starts with us being able to get up and expose who we are, and that being perfect. So do you, and go live every day, once a year.
Yes, go live.
We're going to create like an accountability group after this. And if anyone wants to do it, I'm going to do it. Because we're going to lead it. We're going to keep you accountable. It's going to be just
I
like
don't know if I'm going to go daily, but
a Facebook Messenger like group or something. We're going to just let everyone know we went live. Here's the link.
Yeah, we're going to support each other.
Yeah, don't be afraid to press the red button. I think that red button is...
Because red means the markets are falling.
Yeah.
Red means
stop,
oh,
not
shit.
go, right?
Yeah, exactly. We need a green button.
Yeah, and I think it's also key, like, just don't be afraid to press the red button. And if you can't...
Hope you're not listening, Donald Trump.
Are we going there?
No, I'm not going to... No comment on that. Oh, my gosh. So it doesn't always have to be planned, intentional stuff, too. So, like, if you're trying to keep that streak, which I think is a really smart strategy,
But here's what it
just
does.
go live walking down the street with your friend if you just want to hit that streak 100 days in a row, which I do now.
Yeah, you do. We're going to make it happen.
Awesome.
What it does is it takes the edge off. It allows you to be proactive instead of reactive in your life. And believe me, my first day, I waited till 11:59 to go live, and I'll share with you guys the video. And it was scary for me. And like, I run a company called Soul Express. Are you kidding me? Like, it's risky, it's scary. And every time I go live, I have a moment of like, okay, and it's jittery, and then I kind of settle. It's like when you first drive a car, you like hit some mailboxes, and it's like, it's like, shit, it feels bumpy. And then at some point you like get back on the road, like it's, yeah, like it's just what it is. And just embracing that and knowing that it exists now for us as brands to connect with audiences in a whole new way, for products to like have a personality as a product, and to as an individual to just be you and be enough, be more than enough as an individual, because that's what you're here to do in this lifetime.
Awesome. All right, so everybody's gone live after this. Aside from individuals, so talking about businesses and companies going live, when should they go live, and why aren't more companies doing creative things like including partners and really making it a bigger value add than just going live at their tentpole event and that's it for the year?
It's early days, man. Like, I mean, we got to remember, we're not even in the first inning. It's like warm-ups for this industry, right? This is like early days. I mean, interestingly, live video has been around for a long time. It's only becoming new in the social realm, but like, it is early days, right? And so I think, with companies, there is a lot of kind of constraints and kind of risk mitigation that is in place there. But I mean, what I've seen since Facebook Live launched in 2016 to what we're seeing now in 2019 with, say, LinkedIn Live, companies are embracing this in a whole different way. There's still an element of control, no doubt. And let's be clear, like, authenticity from an organization perspective does not mean unplanned. Not at all. Like, companies do need to plan. Like, they do need to have a story to tell, and they need to be thinking about how they're going to, embrace participation up front. Like, it's a company. They have shareholders, and if they're a public company, I mean, they can't just, spray. So I think they do need to kind of be planned and thoughtful. I see a lot of strides here. So I think we're still in the early days. I think in 2020, you'll see even more advances here.
I do want to say there's a new generation that's fueling the workforce, though. There's a new generation that says, fuck your plan. I'm not interested in your plan. It's going to go my way, and I don't care because I have access to go make $1 million, and you'll want me, and I won't be in your company. And so I think there is a bit of having to embrace that young lifeblood, and live video is a great way to do that. Now there's guardrails, and I think that's the thing that we have to empower these brands to do is like, look, we can all sit around a campfire if there's a ring around it and doesn't turn into a wildfire. We can all enjoy it and roast marshmallows and sing songs and all the things. But I think that's where brands right now, they don't even really, they want like the playbook. And I don't necessarily know that we have the playbook yet for live video, to your point. But we need it. And I think that's one thing that if brands can embrace the ability for people to be themselves, to come in, to have creative expression, to have the freedom and not feel like they have to be a brand in order to be a part of the brand. I think that that's what's going to be the distinguishing factor of live being picked up.
Definitely giving a personality and a persona behind is what live does. It's again going from that big production to something that might be a little bit more organic feeling to we're doing it live. There's no possibility for editing this. It's just coming right out how it is. And I think, to your point, partnerships is a huge opportunity. That's a newsworthy source when you have somebody that you can be working on the video with you. If there's a story that's happening in your walls or with your brand, you have somebody visiting your offices, that's when you really can be teaming up with these different groups to provide some content that people are interested in, and then sharing that content with them to reproduce as well.
Yeah, partnerships. I think that's the ideal time for a brand to go live. Just like what we're doing right now. Lauren and I have gone live before. And yeah, anytime you're with another company or another person really that represents a brand, that's an opportunity to go live. And I think partnerships is really key for that. We touched on also the employee thing. I think, planning is one thing. It depends on the size of the enterprise. If they are a publicly traded company, there's probably like a whole bunch of hoops and guardrails and things they need to jump over. But, takeovers, just letting your employees take it over. Your social media team could probably handle it. You don't have to be the CEO going live. But I think that brands could be doing a lot more. And I think it just has to do with giving more people on your team access to going live through your brand account.
And like you said, making it engaging with people, allowing the audience to actually ask questions and react back. You can work with a partner and you can clash and have a little bit of like a funny argument because you disagree on the way to answer a question. And that produces some type of a story for people to be more interested in and actually want to watch it even more.
Right.
Awesome. So I want to start to talk about the future of live video a little bit. So we've been talking a lot about Facebook Live, LinkedIn Live, YouTube, even Periscope and Twitter, social channels. I know Twitch is really emerging in live video. But where are we going to see live video go beyond social media? Does anybody have any thoughts or predictions on where live video might go next beyond social channels?
Like what I can think of is like immersive technology. So I think of like, is there a way that instead of having to zoo up an elephant, I am a big fan of elephants, is there a way that we can bring the zoo to the classroom? Is there a way that we can have immersive ways to experience a brand or a product? And this has been around for a long time of like trying to make virtual reality dressing rooms, but unfortunately it's hard to feel the fabric if we're not actually in the product itself. But I do think that there will be experiential ways of leveraging live video that are coming, and it'll just that technology will continue to scale. We'll make it affordable to scale.
Awesome. And I do have a follow-up question on that, but I want to let you guys finish answering.
I was just going to say, I mean, we already saw it starting to happen in the last election, and we're certainly going to see it a lot more in this upcoming election. People are going to be streaming live the elections from VR headsets and actually feeling like they're in the room watching the debates, right? So that's one example. And then, of course, like sporting events and, things that are happening live make the most sense to, extend into these other live platforms like VR and AR. I think that that's going to be the next frontier. Different like AR type of filters and things where you can even post content of you live somewhere that you're not even live. Like that's probably going to happen soon as well.
Yeah, interestingly, I'm not as bullish on VR, but that's probably for another time. What I will say is the thing I've been most excited about from what we're seeing at Socialive is the growth in and the demand for live video from an employee engagement and internal communications perspective. I think that industry and that area of the business, both that and learning development, is just going to explode with live video. So that same level of authenticity that people are kind of trying to do on the marketing side, I think it may even be bigger on the internal side of businesses, how they start engaging employees. The growth trajectory there, I think, and in terms of adoption, is significant. The other thing, and it's already obviously well established in China, but live video commerce in a social setting, and I don't mean within Facebook alone, I mean like, new platforms developing, social style QVC. It's only a matter of time. Obviously, we've developed a Shopify app because we really believe that live video commerce will happen within a Shopify universe, and it's going to happen on other channels as well. It's already happening in Instagram to some extent. So I think the emergence of live video commerce in a much more significant way hasn't taken off so far in 19 like I'd hoped or expected, but it's just a matter of time, because that authenticity does lead to conversion. It's only a matter of time between that authenticity leading to actual commerce.
You bring up a good point, which around like commerce and Shopify and different platforms, because like a lot of America still doesn't have access to broadband internet. Like I think about the fact that we still have to think about the consumer of every stage of where they are in their life. And live video takes quite a bit of bandwidth to be able to create it, to upload it, to download it. Like,
yeah, but they got 4G and they're going to have 5G soon on the phones, right? So just from you mean from a production perspective or for consumption?
Well, I think a little bit of both, actually, because the cost of it is pretty high. So if you think about I don't know, maybe my family, like I can't watch Netflix when I go back to Michigan to my family because they can't, their internet. I'm like, how do you not watch Netflix? Like, what do you guys do all day? So, but it's interesting to me because there's a lot of, the polarization of who we are as a country alone is like our access to the same amount of data is very different. So I think it's also about, just looking at we can lean into the live video on specific platforms, but don't forget about our consumers who aren't there yet.
Yeah, I think mobile is going to change that. Sorry to interrupt, but 5G coming too. I just think it's all going to be consumed, and the commerce is going to happen right here on this device.
I was going to say, to the point of the next step, it really is just more accessibility and adoptability. We're not even to the point as a society to be looking too much in this next step. I mean, as a brand, you want to already be there. But as far as live video goes, it's just really getting people more comfortable to get in front of the camera, to be taking in this content from brands and trusting the brands just in general.
Awesome. Yeah, I think all these are great points. And then I think the one thing I would add is I want to kill the webinar. I want the webinar to be dead. I do not want any more webinars. Please, live videos instead. I think that would be an amazing change if we didn't have boring, dry presentations that everybody has to tune in for. Make it a dynamic broadcast. Add a little bit of human elements to it. But yeah, commerce, I think VR is awesome. All this is great. I actually had a specific question in here for VR that I wanted to ask to Carly. When will I be able to put on a VR headset and be at a concert with my friends when none of them are in the room with me?
That's a great question.
2021.
They're working on a lot of fun things, definitely on the technology side. I think in general, just trying to come up with that really great content as almost from the artist view is one of the first perspectives. So trying to see what it's like almost on the stage from the artist perspective. We've worked with a couple different companies on trying to get VR during a concert. The technology stuff makes it sometimes hard. The permissions make it hard, but you'll know when I know.
All right. Looking forward to it.
That technology is already there, though. Just it's not widely adopted, right? So it's more like niche, intimate. You could hang out with Snoop Dogg and smoke a joint with him, and if you win some exclusive, there's Samsung is doing a lot of partnerships like that. In the last year, I've seen them doing some things. So I just don't think it's widely adopted. Not enough people have a VR headset to really make it mainstream yet. And I don't think it will really ever, I think it will always be kind of a niche thing that is something that the gamer community is going to be really into. And more of the early adopter tech community is still going to be the only ones picking it up on top of the gamers.
Well, I think if you look at esports, just to change the industry for a moment, they're competing head on with the, sports leagues, and they're investing heavily in sports. League owners are investing in teams now, and they're building stadiums all over the world. And So I think it's actually, there is a whole underbelly industry. I shouldn't say that. There is a whole industry that I don't personally see and touch and feel because I'm not a gamer, but I know the stats and there's a lot of money to be made there.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. Anybody in the audience have any questions for our awesome panelists tonight?
I know you guys mentioned ways to promote your live video. What ways do you suggest to raise awareness that you're about to do a live video?
So the question was, how do you raise awareness that you're about to do a live video or pre-promote your live video?
If you have an email list, that would definitely be the first step, is to build an email nurture sequence, or sort of a timeline. It's we're going to go live in 3 hours. We're going to go live in 1 hour. We're going to go live in 30 minutes, and do sort of a countdown to when you're going to go live to get people notified and aware of it. I would say another really good one that we're testing out lately is Facebook Messenger. So better than email when it comes to open rates, click-through rates, engagement rates. It's a very similar type of platform, but more conversational, obviously. Using Facebook Messenger to just ping all of your subscribers that you're live right then and there is a really great way to let people know.
Yeah, I could talk about Messenger for hours because there's so much. If we look at just global messaging alone, the opportunity inside of it, and now the video capabilities that are coming to Messenger as well. So, and then just to extend to WhatsApp for a minute, WhatsApp is how a lot of global countries, there's much more adoption of messaging platforms outside of the US as well. So I think you bring up a point. But I was going to say, we mentioned this before, consistency, I think, is one way to train your audience to be tuning in live, time of day or certain topics.
And to turn it on you, I know you're the host of the panel, but you have a lot of knowledge on this particular question. So,
yeah, I think from my point of view, it's like you said, it needs to be integrated in your marketing. How do you pre-promote any content that you do? It's the same thing. How do you promote the actual event? Well, the live event is an extension of that. So you should do some posts ahead of time. You should maybe boost those to targeted audience. You can create a Facebook event and run ads to that against that if you're actually going to go live. Email everybody. It's just all your normal channels. You need to notify people that you're going to be going live and do that consistently. So consistency is a huge part. You guys mentioned it. It's one of our 4 principles of live video. You actually, there's something that happened with LinkedIn Live where when people started going live randomly, they lost followers, and they actually lost followers who didn't engage with them anyway. So, it's trimming a little bit. But then once they got consistent, the people who started doing a consistent show set an expectation for a following, and they didn't have to promote it so much because people started to know it's coming. AMC does a show on Facebook, AMC Thursday Ticket. They used to promote it a lot, and in the beginning they did a lot of promotion and everything, and they still promote it quite a bit, but everybody knows on Thursday they're going to do this live broadcast on Facebook and talk about all the movies coming out. They're going to cut to some EPK material. They're going to cut to trailers, things like that, and they're going to really set the tone for what you should see over the weekend, and people expect it, and so they've kind of grown that audience. So I would say stick to all your normal channels for promoting anything, and then add the element of consistency to create an expectation so you can tone back that spend on promotion. Any other questions?
Well, I think it's also interesting, though, my last point on that, how to promote your live. One thing that's interesting to note is just that the platforms themselves are actually putting in work to promote people that are going live. So my phone just started blowing up lately with these LinkedIn notifications of people going live, and that wasn't happening just 2 months ago on my phone. So clearly the platforms are going to help you promote it. When someone goes live on Instagram, you get a notification. So there is that aspect, whereas if you become a trustworthy creator and you start going live, I think the algorithm or the platform is going to start to help you promote it itself.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, there's live doesn't just mean it lives for that 30 minutes or however long the broadcast is. Facebook, you see was live. LinkedIn, you see was live. So you can also promote it. LinkedIn, not yet, but most platforms you can promote it after the fact too. So if you know it was a great broadcast, you had a good audience, you got a good response, there's a lot of ways that you can promote it after the fact. You can take that full broadcast and use it. You can cut pieces of it. You can look, a lot of people commented at the 12-minute, 30-second mark. And so that must have been great content. Let me clip out that minute of content and use a highlight. And so now I'm using that highlight after the broadcast, but people are going to know that next Thursday or next Friday, I'm going live again, and they can expect more content like this. So you can always use your previous content to promote the next one. Any other questions?
I know Discord and Reddit just launched their live platforms this week. Have you guys looked into that at all? Any thoughts on that? Just curious. I think the Reddit one's really interesting and weird.
Yeah.
I think tapping into the dark corner of the internet a little bit.
Right.
But Brian, what was today's top trending video on Reddit? We're following this daily, by the way.
Oh, it's Space Goat Universe.
Today's Space Goat Universe, and yesterday was
Paint drying.
No, wasn't it like a dancing unicorn or water drying?
Yeah. So the question was about new platforms. It was Reddit Live, and what was the other one? And Discord. Brian, you want to jump up here and talk about Reddit Live? Brian,
I think Space Goat Universe is all you need.
It sounds like Reddit Live isn't something that's being taken too seriously quite yet, but Discord I think should be taken very seriously when it comes to Twitch.
Meaning
Being
it's a competitor to
a
Twitch?
massive competitor, I would say. Twitch is probably one of the bigger live platforms out there right now, and Discord launching that could be a huge player in the space.
Cool. Yeah. And I would say, like, with any of these early launches of live, a lot of them do it very much in a beta mode. So you can't always judge it by the first impression. Brian, who's here, who was talking from the audience, is our head of product, one of the most savvy guys I know. And he's fiddling around with Reddit for a couple hours, figuring out where the streams are coming from, where to find them, who's streaming what, how they're getting access. So beta modes aren't always like the final result. They're a lot of times strategically testing certain things. You saw LinkedIn slowly rolled it out. So
I mean, Amazon has a live right now. If anyone's familiar with Amazon Live, I mean, let's hope this is the beta or the alpha. Frankly, it's not very good.
yeah.
Well, with
great
Reddit
question,
Live, is that like, I mean, can anyone go live on it, or is it still beta?
They're just doing a 1 week experiment this week, 9 to 5. Maximum of 100 broadcasters, 30-minute max. So
Using external encoder? Or?
no, it's just through their own app.
Is it anonymous like most of Reddit, or do you have to have a verified profile? Because I think could be a really weird.
I think this is just an experiment. They're looking to prepare a launch, like a more widespread launch later in the year. So this is just kind of a 1 week experiment. Probably to think about a lot of things, technology-wise, but also what kind of content works and what doesn't work, and what people are going to stream and what they aren't going to stream. So, so far it's been some pretty interesting content about it.
Reddit, it sounds like people are trolling, which is pretty typical of Reddit.
Yeah. Run of the mill.
Water drying, going.
Great question, though. Any other questions from the audience?
Going live across multiple platforms simultaneously, we get it, and that's a great way to do it. Specifically, when you're on Facebook, it has a lot of cross-posting applications. Like if you're doing a big show, and you have a lot of celebrities coming, they will cross-post to their Facebook page when they enter the show. Do the other platforms have that? I don't really see that.
So through Socialive, we can simulcast across multiple channels and multiple pages on each channel. So with Twitter, you can go live. Twitter and Periscope, you can go live unlimited pages. Twitch, same thing. YouTube, same thing. LinkedIn, you are able to go live on multiple pages. I don't think it's like exactly how they built it yet, but you can do it. Instagram is a closed API, so unless the challenge with Instagram is you need a separate, essentially mobile device or way to kind of broadcast into Instagram vis-a-vis all the other channels because they haven't opened up the API. Though I heard earlier tonight from someone here that might change soon.
Was it me?
Are you going to utilize the bandwidth from your location when you're on Socialive and you want to spit it out an additional?
No, that's the thing. The old encoders, hardware and software encoders, that's the problem, right? Each of them is a lane requiring additional bandwidth. Socialive takes the one curated stream up to the AWS server and then sprays out. So you only need about 2 to 5 Mbps upload speed to go live across unlimited channels. You don't need any additional bandwidth speed to go to those additional channels.
And one other question, is LinkedIn, you have to have a verified account?
Yeah, it's whitelisting.
It's whitelisted.
Yeah, our team works with the LinkedIn team as well as there are a few other platforms that integrate with LinkedIn. We all work with the LinkedIn team to get teams approved or companies approved or individuals approved for whitelisting. They're slowly opening it up.
But anyone can apply to be qualified for LinkedIn Live. They have an application form on their site, and they really just ask you to submit a couple other videos, examples of where else you've gone live. And I don't know, like it's kind of in a black box up in somewhere in LinkedIn headquarters. They have a inside connection, so I would say
it's really a team of like 4 people, frankly. It's not a huge team over there that's actually pushing the stuff through. But yeah.
That's how most of the tech platforms are, just as an insider under the hood of the car. Like there's, very, very lean teams, and it's usually a very manual process to anything that goes on over there. So it can be kind of subjective sometimes, if you will, in general. But yeah, I mean, I think applying is always great, like, for any of the platforms.
So we should probably follow up with, if I'm streaming to Facebook and I want to cross post to all these celebrities that may come in for the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
The only way to do that with the other platforms is go on Socialive and add them back.
I mean, there may be other technology platforms. We may not be the only technology platform that can broadcast across all, but yeah.
Hit them all from different angles.
Absolutely,
Hit them
yeah.
all from the platform.
Absolutely.
Hit them all. Like they don't have,
That's right.
LinkedIn and Twitch doesn't have the cross posting and handoff.
No, you can't do it from the social channels themselves, no.
That's what you're saying. So like when you post on Instagram, you're almost always, you have the option to share it to Facebook automatically, share it to Twitter automatically, but there's not that kind of cross sharing when it comes to going live. If you go live on YouTube, they don't have a button to also go live on other platforms.
They would rather you not.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so they're trying to bring all of the audience to their channel, whereas what we're trying to enable companies and people to do is to bring their content to wherever people want to consume it across all of the channels. So, for example, for this broadcast, it's one broadcast. AJ over here, who's done an awesome job setting up all the production and running everything, just toggled on every channel that we're simulcasting to. So it was as easy as clicking a toggle button once it's set up. So yeah, I don't think any channels are going to rush to roll that out to push your content externally, but there's definitely ways to do that.
And Socialive definitely makes it a lot easier. Like the old days, we used to have 3 different tablets and phones all streaming individually on this, to try to simulcast. And it was just a hack where you would just have to have, 3 different tablets and phones all streaming to the different platforms, like trying to watch the same thing at the same time, which is not fun. Everyone trying to push the button at the same time, and no.
Any other? Yeah.
I have a question for you. You work for Live Nation, right? So I work in like old school TV. I work in like live, multi-camera television, game shows, award shows, specials, and stuff like that. And so I'm curious about like live broadcasts and concerts. Are those things, if you know about this part of your company, how did those do, or are those just like a cash dumpster, where like I feel like that's many people really want to watch concerts live online. I know I get bored because it's different than just being there. Are they really just promotional events, or are you guys getting good responses from it?
We did a partnership with Yahoo over 2018, and we streamed, I think it was over like 5,000 concerts over the course of 365 days. So that was a really cool sponsorship opportunity where we were able to come up with some type of revenue because it was with Yahoo and there was a partnership. But when it comes to us trying to actually use the content for ourselves, that's where the artist gets a little sensitive because they don't want to give away the whole show. There's our comedy shows where they actually don't even let you bring in a cell phone. So that's where it gets a little sensitive to the content that we're actually producing, and there needs to be more of a conversation around that. But we have had the value where it's come through sponsorships, and it's presented by or hosted by with conjunction of Live Nation, where we're able to circle back with value and revenue.
So you feel like the client's actually getting return on investment, like they're happy with the viewership and they're satisfied with what they've been? Are people tuning in? Is basically what I'm asking. You know, people actually watching.
I heard it was a successful partnership. I'm not on that area of the company, but that's just the strategy that we've used before. And I can tell you the limitations with the artists is the other struggle that I've heard about.
Yeah, because I also love to work on those like live broadcasts of concerts. I just feel like my initial assessment is that like, you're not going to go very far, very long, because it's going to be
One to add to that, one of the ways that we used to use live video, and we actually worked with Live Nation and some of our brand partners and their bands, like, you know, everyone worked together in the sponsorship, was using it as a way to retarget people who were exposed to the live content later. So you live stream a concert or you live stream a festival or, you know, something like that. And then everyone who tuned in later, you can then remarket them with a brand message or remarket them with a artist message or a co-branded sort of piece of creative, or chop the creative up and use it in a story. Like, I think to the point we were talking about before, not just thinking about the live content in of itself in that moment, but how does it extend? And yeah, just think through like ahead of time, like what are all the ways that this could actually be a full customer experience or a way to push someone through a funnel, like use the band to introduce the brand, if you will, and then be able to remarket them in like with some of the same content, even like the highlights from the content show, or have an Instagram story of like a behind the scenes with the band, like kind of have to work it out ahead of time. I think being proactive about it, but there's a lot of ways to think about using live content and the celebrity status to have the longevity of that and the brand outcomes come to life.
You have a 30-minute piece of content and you can cut that into when you saw engagement peaking or when you saw certain attributes that looked really good to the eye, and how you can serve that on additional platforms aside from your initial one. You can put it on your website, you can put it into email newsletters, you can put it up on your blog, and then figure out some type of a script to then start increasing SEO. So there's a bunch of different tools that can come from that initial product.
Is there any sort of like Spotify Live that's going to be launched? Because that would be a really cool way to tap into that, because I personally don't tune into many live video concerts, but in my car, I listen to XM radio and they'll stream Bonnaroo or Coachella. They'll be streaming those live concerts and I actually tune in and enjoy it. And yeah, it's really about the music, right? Very often it's about the performance as well. So the video could be a huge value add, but I could definitely see Spotify or iHeartMedia and iHeartRadio and those companies really starting to do more live streaming of concerts from an audio standpoint.
Yeah, and to answer the question, I know when Coachella started streaming on YouTube, it had a huge audience. So I don't know if that's still true, but maybe kind of tentpole concert shows like that people have attended in the past that they're not attending that year might perform better than your one-off shows.
I'll share one more thing. This is really fun. Viewers love this, but if you look at like the NCAA Final Four tournaments and the sort of bracketology, if you will, World Cup's a big one as well. Like anything that's coming down to a big team, and you take the losing athletes and you put them in a room watching the championship live, that engagement's crazy because people want to hear what they have to say. People want to hear like them as the sort of commentary. They don't want to hear Charles Barkley at, you know, the whatever it is. Like, it's just like a different person, one of their favorite stars who didn't win, but is sharing what he thinks about his other competitors and you know, former teammates, whatever it is. Yeah, it's pretty fun stuff. Yeah. I mean, look, no idea is original, okay, but it's like just a different format on a different channel, and people love it.
Any other questions? Awesome. Well, thank you to all the panelists for joining. You guys have some really, really great insights around video, marketing, live video. Thank you to everybody watching, everybody attending. Thank you, Houston, for hosting us. AJ, the setup, Keegan, the setup, everybody who had a part in it. But we appreciate you joining us live and look forward to doing more live events.
Thank you.
Woo!